Everyone is concerned about inflation right now. What do you think? What is your outlook for inflation, and how can investors best hedge against it?
Well, we have been inflation bears and continue to be. We think the Fed is not, which is not that unusual for them, sort of an exact opposite camp. Like if you really look at the data, we see inflation accelerating and not being transitory. For instance, last month, energy was actually down for the month. It's already rallied up 5%. Natural gas is hitting new highs, which you might say, oh, it's not a big deal, but that goes into electricity prices directly. And of course, if you consume natural gas. So all the commodities are continuing to accelerate. And the quantity theory of money would say the Fed's increasing the money supply last year was about 50% this year. If they continue doing what they were doing, which we don't believe they will, it would be, well over 20%. So we think that that's eventually going to translate into inflation. And so in an accelerating inflation market, commodities all work. Gold isn't necessarily great because it's correlated with treasuries as well, but it's starting to rally now. Obviously, Bitcoin is kind of like the pure, we don't recommend that, of course. There's no cash flow or intrinsic value, but it does tend to go up in an inflationary environment. But the problem, particularly with Bitcoin, is if the Fed were to back off in QE, we'd be nervous about that going way down. But I think we'd be back in terms of inflation hedge, kind of these old economy sectors, particularly materials, energy, financials would do okay because you'd have treasury yields way higher because treasuries, by the way, are 70% correlated with inflation. So you'd have to, if you do believe in inflation, you would also believe in higher rates. So it's kind of the same theme, just from a different angle.
What is your outlook? We have about 60 seconds left, Jay. What is your outlook for the markets overall between now and the end of the year?
We think until earnings season during the summer, we're kind of range bound in the 4,000 to 4,200 range for the S&P. Could get a summer rally. Everybody should always be nervous about the fall. We'll probably end up higher by the end of the year because of this 10% growth. But we are nervous about stagflation in 22. So we think that it's going to be a little bit harder to make money this year than it was over the last 12 months because of the sort of specter of stagflation and Fed tightening and a fiscal cliff and a tax cliff coming in 22.